tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans, producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? This is 30 for 30. And that song that you hear coming in the background, that should be one of those pop trivia or ancient trivia questions. What theme so is from this 80s theme so? Okay. I got my Mike Tyson articulation there. What 80s television show is this theme song from? Stephanie, you got 5 seconds to answer.
Miami Vice, dude. Were you even born in the 80s?
That's besides the point. And that's good that you got that, because from my understanding, you won another game show this past weekend, but we can't talk about that. So
you're right.
But what we can talk about is Elway to Marino. And before I get to that, let me introduce myself. The handsome guy you're looking at is Kevin John. But I can't do this by myself. There's another beautiful person.
There you go.
On this panel with me, the beautiful Steph Z.
Hey guys, what's up?
What's up, Steph? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. This episode, as much as I love it, because I do love business and I'm an entrepreneur and I love to see how things happen behind the scenes with trades, with drafts. I love it. This one was a heartbreaker for me, man. A heartbreaker
in the sense that it broke your heart. A
heartbreaker because it made me remember when the Jets could have had Dan Marino.
Yeah, well, they really could have, but then again, the Colts could have had technically they did have Elway, but at any rate,
Which is amazing too. Again, we'll get into it, but it's just amazing too to see how things change. The Baltimore Colts we're talking about. We're not talking about the Indianapolis Colts.
That is true.
Yeah.
And another good reason that Marino didn't end up going to New York Jets?
Why?
Is because we couldn't have came in with Miami Vice as the theme song.
Yeah, but we would have had Start Spreading the News. That would have been just as good.
No, that was
I'm sorry, Frank Sinatra.
That's a Yankee song anyway.
Frank Sinatra, or we could have had Jay-Z, Empire State. Either of those two beat the Miami Vice theme song any day. Right, people out there? Let us know your favorite theme song. Thank you.
Wow, you got some endorsement cheers there.
I'm just saying.
All right, well,
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's get down to business. So this 30 for 30 starts off actually basically right before the 1983 draft. And one of the things that I noticed that was interesting is when they're starting off with this, the 1983 draft was actually the very first draft where fans were able to actually come and see everything, where fans can be spectators. And I said that they actually had fans lining up overnight and things of that sort. So it's kind of groundbreaking, because if you think at all the drafts up to this point, fans are very instrumental and vocal in what team selects who.
Right, and if you think about it now too, 31 years later, now some of the biggest players don't even go to the draft.
Exactly.
So it's really crazy how it's come. And that's one of my favorite things about these 30 for 30 series, is because a lot of it teaches us the history. It teaches us the foundation of where these sports came from, how they even got Soul Man, stuff like that. It teaches us how the shoe deals started. So it's a lot of the beginning and the roots for people that maybe weren't around when these drafts happened to see, because nowadays they might not understand it the same way. Because kids nowadays are not going to understand when watching this 30 for 30 or when watching the draft how it used to be. So they do a really good job of showing the history of sports, and they make it interesting too. This is a very interesting draft.
Yeah, it really is, particularly because there were 6 quarterbacks I think taken in the first round,
right?
And I don't think that was followed up until 99 I think was the next time that 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round. I could be wrong, but at any rate,
wasn't it the Brady 6?
The Brady 6, but that was in 2000.
Oh, so there was another one before that?
There was one I know there was one in 99. That was when they had, what is that guy's name? Was it Tim Couch and all those other quarterbacks? And I don't think any of them really, I don't know. I got to go back and look at that.
Right. I know the Brady 6, so it's definitely happened again. Yeah. We're just not sure if it's been once or twice or
Exactly.
4 times.
We'll have to fantasy stats guru. Make sure
fantasy
you let
stats
us
guru,
know.
where you at, man?
So anyways, so this is, this particular episode is kind of narrated, or not narrated, it's narrated by Tom Selleck, but it's kind of...
Who's amazing.
He is. I mean, his mustache is amazing. But it's kind of, I guess, told through the perspective through their agent, Elway and Marino's agent, Marvin Demoff. Who... it's funny, prior to becoming a sports agent, he had a background. I think he was practicing, I think it was a defense attorney.
Defense attorney.
Or something like that. And then he had an interest in sports. And then he saw this kid, John Elway, who was this highly prized, one of the best prospects ever. And he was like, I thought it was funny. He's like, you know what? I saw him and I wanted to attach myself to that person.
Right.
He was like, I knew I wanted to represent him or work with him or something of that sort. So... They kind of start off showing how their relationship became about and how they established it. And from there, it's funny because they talk about Marino's college years and Elway's college years. And they were talking about how Marino, I think it was his junior year when he was phenomenal. He broke all these records. He had passed and then all this stuff. And then he came back his senior year and just had a horrible season. Yeah. And it's crazy how much... that really affects your draft status, Well,
it's funny, too, because, again, and, not to just keep going back to modern day and not make it about this, but it is interesting how nowadays, because players get looked at so young, it might not play that way anymore. Like, if they saw him as a junior, he might have got offers as junior now. He might have got... they might have saw what they needed to see as him. It might not have affected him the same way, I guess, is what I'm going for. But I thought it was really interesting too how they really did play how Dan Marino's dad was a truck driver. You know what I mean? Like they really played the different lifestyles that they came from, which I feel like really did show in their character. So I like how they do that.
No, I'm really glad you brought that up too, because they did kind of document each of their, and they, John Elway's background. He was this surfer kid from California,
right?
And the stereotypical California dude.
Yeah, his dad was a head coach at San Jose.
Yeah.
So, and it's like I've got a head coach of football who can clearly be a guide in this process of going into the NFL, and I've got a truck driver dad. And it's like at the end of the day. I mean, I don't know. At the end of the day, would you say their careers were similar? Would you say that one outshines the other? I feel like, it's a good testament to no matter where you come from, if you're hard work and determination, you can still succeed kind of just like anyone else.
Exactly. And that's a good way to draw that parallel between the both of them because you truly can. So, another thing that hurt Marino his senior year, other than his poor play, was the fact that he was associated with using drugs.
Well, he was falsely accused of using drugs.
Falsely accused, alleged drug use. You know what?
Well, they tested him and his whole team. And
was it his whole team? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they tested him. They questioned his whole team to see his roommate at the time, to see what was going on, if anyone knew anything about this. And it was because of the fact that he kind of fell off. Like, he was a star quarterback junior year, and then senior year, they were like, there's got to be a reason for him not performing the same way that he had in the past. And again, I don't think we ever really got that clean-cut reason as to why he didn't have that same performance his senior year. Not that it matters, but I don't think we ever did. But yeah, it definitely, they were trying to find a reason for that because it couldn't just be that he had an off year, which that's what he says, he had an off year. And he even said that he didn't do drugs or anything like that. And I feel like now, you would, if you're as successful as Dan Marino, if you did do something back then, you could have been like, yeah, I almost blew it. I almost lost it. I don't think he would. I tend to believe him that there was no drug use.
There's no drug use.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they just want to find a reason for his, why he regressed. And,
right.
It's funny. You look at certain players, even now, with the comparison, like, for example, Matt Barkley, who after the quarterback of USC, who after his junior year, he was a projected first-round overall pick. He decided to come back to school. His senior year had a fairly horrible season when drafted in the 4th or 5th round. So I say that to say that, sometimes, because the expectation level was high due to circumstances and things of that sort, it's not, it's difficult to try to go out there and repeat what you did the season before, especially when you had such a great season, which distinguishes the greats from the not so greats. But
totally.
At any rate, so, obviously, while Marino was enduring all this his senior season, Elway is just like kicking butt.
On fire.
He's literally on fire.
Yeah.
But his team is not, which is funny because I think his team went like 5-6 or something his senior year.
Yeah, I think they were less than 500. I forgot exactly what it was, but I think they were less than 500 for the season.
Exactly, which is, I mean, if anything, just a testament to the fact of how great he is. The fact, usually if you're a quarterback on a team, on a losing team, going into the draft.
And he went to Stanford.
Yeah.
So,
right?
I mean, the quarterback of losing Stanford, which Stanford's come a long way.
I'm about to say, Andrew Luck went to Stanford. He was number 1 overall in 2012. So
I mean, a lot of great players come from Stanford, but I guess they were having an off year too. Just Elway wasn't. He was shining right through. He was like, you guys can all be having a bad year, but I'm right here. I'm ready.
Yeah, so Elway was slinging in. You know, obviously as a result of his incredible play on the field, he was projected to be a first-round pick. But you get a little shift in the story, because at the same time, he's not just excelling on the football field, but excelling on the baseball field as well. As we've seen with a lot of football athletes that obviously do well in both sports. So,
right. Which I think is a testament, and because I feel like we see this, and we've seen this before. Was it Bo Jackson?
Yeah,
we saw, and George Steinbrenner from the Yankees was looking at him as well, which it kind of just goes full circle to show you how involved George Steinbrenner is and how much he knows his players. He can watch a football player and know he's a great baseball player.
Exactly.
And he's like, no, I want dibs on this right away, which was really interesting. And honestly, I never knew that John Elway was a Yankee.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, there's part of me that doesn't really like him after watching this.
Whoa.
I'm sorry. I feel
He's like America's quarterback, you know?
No, I'll tell you, no, I don't agree. I feel...
well, I do, to a certain extent, agree with you, and I'm going to get into that a little later.
Yeah, well, we can wait on that, but there's two things that I think are really... There's one reason why I'm kind of hesitant on him. He's a great superstar quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to take anything away from him. I'm not sure that I agree with his attitude about a lot of things, and I also know that, especially with the Broncos, there's a weird thing with the Broncos, to this day with the Broncos, that somehow, and I might get hate for this, whatever.
It won't be the first time.
But I read somewhere, and I know everything you read is not true. So if this is false, fine. Somebody tell me nicely, educate me, don't ridicule me. I heard that whenever the Denver Broncos win, the oil stock and the oil prices in Colorado go up. That it is somehow tied to the, like, there's some...
Whenever they win a game?
Whenever they win a game...
The oil prices go up.
Like, there is some underlying thing that happens with the economy when the Denver Broncos win a game.
I need someone to explain to me them winning and the correlation to oil.
Because some of the owners of that team or something, there's something, someone out there that says, hey, I don't call them conspiracy theorists, I call them great thinkers. They like to think out of the box.
That is true. They're critical thinkers.
Critical thinkers, that's what it is. But I feel like, I wish someone could say it. I read this article once, and again, I'm not saying it's true, but there was this thing that sat with me, and I was like, that's very interesting. Like, is the people that own that team somewhat dirty money? Totally, probably can be false, but it's just something where I was like, okay.
Well, I guess with that, I mean, I would have to say I wouldn't be surprised if there were other ownerships or teams that may have had some dirty or corrupt money or things of that sort involved.
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like every owner is perfect out there. And,
no. I'm not saying that at all. And again, this is a huge, a whole nother show about the corruption. But I feel like, like I said, there was something specifically written about the Denver Broncos that I read once. And I was like, okay, that's interesting.
Well, maybe viewers, you can let us know. I always thought the Jets had corrupt ownership.
Oh,
but
come
what do
on.
I know?
If we had corrupt ownership, we've been winning more football games, dude.
That is true. So anyways, so going back to this, so obviously he was taken by the Yankees, and I found it interesting that he actually led the Yankees, the minor leagues, in every offensive category that there was. So he easily, or I wouldn't say easily, but he was on his pace to have a prolific career. We talked about the influence of George, that he has on other athletes, and the fact that he was able to identify Elway and say, I want you to be a right fielder, like he just knows and is able to count. So anyways, so Elway goes and plays for the Yankees for a little while, and then I think it's during that time Marino gets drafted number 1 by the USFL, which I believe, which is it's the league that's currently extinct,
right?
And no longer. But Marino was actually drafted number 1 overall with them.
Right.
And, which is interesting because I think that league ended up folding, I want to say 2 years after this particular draft.
Yeah, it's point kaput.
Yeah, but, the fact that they selected Marino first overall, and I think also Jim Kelly, who was in this draft as well, was selected to the USFL.
He was. He was. And he was happy because he didn't want to go play for the Bills.
Yes.
Which is crazy. I don't know. I feel like maybe that's what started me on the wrong foot with this. I feel like if I would, and maybe I'm wrong, again, I'm not in the draft right now, but if I was in the draft, I feel like I would go play for whoever.
Now,
okay, wait, time out.
Now,
hold that thought.
Okay,
I just tried to look up the Denver Broncos thing, and this was another thing that the Denver Broncos ticket price is the most expensive in the NFL. Why?
But that's probably because they're good right now. 4
No
years ago,
way.
5 years ago, would they have been the highest? No, I'm sure.
But it shouldn't be. It should
and
be
I think
universal.
the Patriots have the highest ticket prices, actually.
August 4th, 2015, Denver Broncos ticket prices are the most expensive in the NFL.
That's because this is Peyton Manning's last season.
We'll see, but he's not even that good. Like why would Seattle take?
Wait, if you say Peyton Manning's not that good, I will walk off the set right now.
No, I mean he's fine, but it's like he's gonna play another year and whatever. He's had his star year. He's had it, man. Deal with it.
Anyways,
he's had it.
This is not about Peyton, but
anyway, yeah. So there's just, and I think it's because it's the Lucas Oil Stadium. Oh wait, no, that's Indianapolis.
That's in Indianapolis.
I don't know. I'm trying to find out, but.
Well, we definitely know where you can find the cheapest tickets at. That would be Oakland Coliseum, or OCO Coliseum.
I can't believe you didn't go to the Jets with that one.
Actually, well, the Jets, that's not the cheapest. They just give those out for free. So there's no compensation at all with those tickets. Anyway, I would feel that, I mean, would you, if you were in the draft right now, and I get we're not, I understand that, but put yourself there. If I was in the draft, that'd be a wonderful situation.
No, but put yourself there. Are you really... I mean, I don't know. I guess in the same sense that it's annoying that they don't want to play for certain teams. Like, is it admirable because he didn't like the way the team was that he didn't want to play for the Baltimore Colts?
Steph, this is the thing.
What's
I'm going to just break it down to you.
Break it down, Kevin. What you got? Break it down.
Yes. As somebody as an outsider looking at these football players and saying, you guys don't know how privileged, honored, and blessed that you are to be able to make the top percentage, to be able to play for an NFL team. You should be grateful, thankful, and appreciative that somebody selects you. Very true. Just as an outsider looking in, I totally understand that perspective.
Right.
However, when you are a star, and not to say that you should give preferential treatment to star players, but when you are a star potential Hall of Famer, and you know you're drafted in the top 5, potentially first overall.
Right, but cut off your nose to spite your face? Say you're not going to play football?
Hold up.
Because you got picked on a team you don't want to play for?
First of all, Bo Jackson was drafted first overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I know, he didn't want to play
baseball.
That was for
another reason. But at any rate, when you are, and just listen, hear me out on this. When you are a top player,
right,
top 5, 3, 2, 1 overall, you have what they call leverage. And you know that you... Hold up.
But that then throws the rules and the accuracy of the draft out the window. The fact that the Baltimore Colts earned that first draft pick and should have gotten John Elway, it messes up the entire system.
Well, first of all...
It's not fair then. It's either let the players pick the teams they want to play for, the top 5, or everyone has to follow the rules and the team that deserves the first pick gets the best player.
Well, technically...
How is that fair with the rules?
Technically, if you have a great agent and all these players that are picked to top 5, top 10 overall, you know they meet with the teams prior to.
Got it.
And like, for example, this year, Jameis Winston, first overall, he met with Tampa Bay before the draft.
Right, he met with 5
Titans
other teams
met with Mariota before the draft. So you pretty much know who you're getting drafted to prior to. Not every cases, but usually if you're the first overall, second overall.
But again, that's like not the way the game's supposed to be played. The way the game's supposed to be played is that the way that you finish the season and the way that you have your team accounts for what number draft pick you get, and in that draft pick, whoever is available, you should be able to have on your team in order to keep the teams fair.
Let me ask you a question. If you're the GM of a sports franchise, you have the number 1 overall pick,
right?
And you know a player does not want to play for you.
I'm gonna go there and find out why. And I'm going to be like, dude, how do we make this work? This is my pick. I deserve this pick.
He didn't like the head coach there. You're just going to fire your head coach because the number 1 overall player doesn't want to play with him?
I mean, possibly.
Okay, well, those are things that you got to ask yourself before you do this. So, anyways, going back to this, the final point I was just going to make on this to defend, and I'm not, and the thing is, I'm not sitting here endorsing this kind of attitude. I'm just playing devil's advocate, making you understand.
I get it.
You got to understand. And we talked about Peyton earlier. Remember what his brother did in 2004? When he was going to be drafted by the Chargers first overall, and ended up his dad. Well, obviously his father had a lot of influence with that. But Eli said, "I'm not going to the Chargers. I refuse to play for the Chargers. I'm not going if they select me." So obviously he ended up getting checked.
But again, I don't know.
And
again,
then he went.
Look at Eli Manning.
Yeah, 2 Super Bowls. More than his brother,
Poopy
Peyton.
diaper face.
Yeah, let me ask you a question.
He looks like he has poop in his diaper at all times.
Let me ask you a question.
He's not a happy man.
You realize that Eli Manning by himself has more Super Bowl wins than the Jets do in the last 30 years?
Dude, my Jets suck.
I'll let you marinate on that.
I'm not even worried about it. But in the same sense, I just feel like look at Eli Manning. Does he look like a happy person? Is he someone you want to go have a beer with?
I mean, he's a 2-time Super Bowl winning MVP.
Right,
not many quarterbacks can say that.
Right, but I don't know.
And he beat Tom Brady twice.
But even Tom Brady, who I can't stand, and I can't stand the Patriots, look at his story. The kid was happy to play. He was happy to get chosen. He went to where he wanted. He sat the bench until they wanted to play him. He played by the rules, and now he's great.
And now he deflates footballs. All right,
Come on. But you
with
know
that
what I'm
being
saying?
said...
No, but you know what I mean? Like, there's certain players, it tells what kind of person you are, that you play by the rules, and you work your way up, and then you gain your status.
Steph, I totally understand, and we have to move on to the next point, but I really just want to tell you real quick, you have to understand, when you are a top player, you realize that team that you're going to is going to dictate your future, your Hall of Fame candidacy.
I understand that.
It is going to dictate all those things.
I understand everything you're saying. All I'm saying is it's the rules of the game of the NFL, and that's why you get paid millions of dollars to be a part of it.
All right. Well, I appreciate that perspective. We got to move on. So obviously he is taken by the Baltimore Colts.
Right.
And, you know, they basically told him at that point in time, he was talking to the Colts, Irsay, who was the owner at that time, and basically they were looking at trade options. You know, they were looking at a lot of different options on the table. What can they do? Because I think they finally accepted the fact that Elway did not want to play for them. So they're starting to look at options and things of that sort. Meanwhile, Elway has this, I think it's like a press conference or something afterwards, where he does announce that his intent to go play baseball.
Right. And
that's when he does goes to play baseball again. And, you know, meanwhile, the Colts are still kind of freaking out because that sucks. You use the number 1 pick. And
again, I feel like that's somewhat, I don't know. I feel like somewhat in the rules, it's like if you're going to enter the draft, you can't enter the draft not like where you're picked and be like, peace out, I'm going to go play baseball.
I do agree with that.
But that's the same thing as my earlier point.
No,
you can't agree with one and not the other, man.
No. Your earlier point was...
I'm just saying, we don't got to go back there, but I'm just saying, it's all part of the rules and regulations of the draft.
I agree. Okay. And also I think the Colts were also and that was another thing that we didn't reference earlier, was they said a second into that draft we're picking him. So they seem very arrogant and resilient. We're going to do what we're going to do, and we're going to get what we want. And I think ultimately that backfired, as we saw.
Right.
Because I think ultimately they ended up getting a first-round pick and a second-round pick or something. It was really nothing.
Yeah.
So anyways, meanwhile Elway is playing baseball and living it up. And this is also really a funny part in the story. It kind of seemed like for a while, because it was talking about from Marino to Elway, but for a while it was really all about Elway. Right. You know, for a good, 70% of this portion. I was like, is Marino still in the picture here?
Right.
But so anyways, actually I'll come back to Elway. So we're still going on in the draft, and Marino says Jim Kelly says, I hope I don't get picked to the Buffalo Bills. He was like saying all these teams that I definitely don't want to get the Bills. They were
right, and then like a true athlete, his press conferences, I'm really excited to play for the Buffalo Bills.
But that was fake.
Thank you for this opportunity. But it doesn't matter. You show your game face, dude. It doesn't matter. That's what a team player is. No matter who you're given, you say, okay, I'm going to come into your franchise. You want me to do this. You're hiring me to do a job. I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the best job. Go, Kelly. Go, Jim Kelly. Woohoo!
But it was disingenuous, and he even said he was just going through the motions and doing what he was supposed to do.
Right, but then he went there and he was a great quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
Well, 2 years after the fact, he ended up going to the Bills. So he actually didn't go. He went to the USL after the Bills drafted him. He was like, peace.
USFL, yeah.
But anyways, I understand what you're saying, which that's really what made this draft all the more interesting was all these quarterbacks that didn't want to
drama in this draft.
There really was.
I know.
This is probably one of the most drama-filled first rounds ever. So,
and it's funny too because it's drama-filled. Like the drafts are drama-filled now, but because I feel like everybody can be a reporter. There's lots of cell phones. There's lots of people.
Social media, all that.
Yeah, everyone could say they saw, heard, witnessed something. But for there to be this much drama when there was no, the fans that were there weren't snapping pictures, didn't have their cell phones. It was just word of mouth, and to be this dramatic is kind of amazing.
I agree with you. It was super dramatic. So at this point, Kelly gets drafted. Marino is still left on the board.
Oh man!
And they're going down to the 26th pick, 27th pick.
You can't cross over the 24th pick. The New York Jets should have taken Dan Marino, and we took Kenny O'Brien, and I left Kenny O'Brien, and I still have his jersey. But Kenny O'Brien following Richard Tard, whose jersey I have as well, Dan Marino would have been better.
He probably would have, but Ken O'Brien did have a decent.
He had a good run,
He played
man.
10, 11 seasons, and he also came from like a Division II or Division III school.
Yeah, we had a good run with him.
But anyways,
he was no Hall of Famer.
He was no Joe Namath, that's for sure.
He was no Dan Marino Hall of Famer.
Yeah, very true. Even though Dan Marino never made a Super Bowl. But anyways, moving on, the Dolphins end up getting, I forgot to write this down, I think it's a 27th pick that they had that round, or 26th.
I think it was 26.
Yeah, so 26th pick, and they end up selecting Marino he was the last quarterback taken actually in that round, and they ended up taking him, and he's excited to be in Miami and to be a Dolphin, and so meanwhile, he ends up getting picked up, and then Elway is off playing baseball or something.
Right, in New York when he said that he wasn't going to play in Baltimore because he wanted to be on the West Coast.
On the West Coast, yeah.
Come on.
But he said that was an excuse. He was looking for a reason to not,
Yeah.
But I do agree with you to a certain extent on this. They did kind of perceive Elway in this as a spoiled, just a very spoiled brat kind of guy.
Spoiled brat. Oh, and so as we can clarify, what the Baltimore Colts got, they got the 1984 first round pick. They got QB Mark Herman, and they got guard Chris Hinton. And he was really interesting because he said his story when he got to Denver, he was like signing autographs, doing this, doing that.
They embraced him.
They totally embraced him. And then when he went to Baltimore, he was always like, "You were the guy that we lost Elway for." And they're like, "Well, we would have had no one to block for him then." So I liked his spirit. I like that they talked to him. I think that he's great. That was fun.
It was, and he seemed like a genuinely nice person.
Yeah, he got it.
It's unfortunate that he had to go from one extreme to the other, but
which again is the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm. And that's what he was doing.
You signed up for, yeah.
Exactly. So, anyways, where all this turmoil is transpiring, like I said, it's really this part of the program when, like I just said, Elway really starts to come across as a privileged, spoiled guy that knows he has leverage, and kind of to the point where they're kind of perceiving him as a unlikable character, in this. But obviously he knows that he's wanted everywhere. So when you have that kind of leverage, you can kind of do what you want. Right. So eventually,
not that you always should.
Exactly. And I do agree.
That's the difference.
I do agree with you. At some point, you got to show humility and stuff.
And the other bone I have to pick with John Elway is this. Okay. If I asked you this question, Kevin John, who is the most superstar athlete, the best athlete of all time to ever wear the number 7 on his jersey? Who would you pick?
Mickey Mantle.
I love you. In the Sports Illustrated, they had 1 to 100, the best players' numbers. So
I saw that, yeah.
And John Elway was number 7. Not true. John Elway is not the most iconic person to wear number 7 on a jersey across all the major sports.
Exactly. No, I do agree.
It is Mickey Mantle. So that for me is kind of like, that's kind of horseshit.
That is, but you got to understand. I mean, Elway, like I said earlier, he's always been like America's quarterback. Everyone has always loved John Elway.
I get it. But again, it's like because he has the nice smile and he's handsome and he grew up with the privileged family, he gets to be more well known than Mickey Mantle. Come on.
Yeah, no, that is true.
It's not the way it's going to be.
That is very true. I mean,
so that was my two.
But you never know. By the time Ben Roethlisberger does retire, if he gets a couple more Super Bowl rings, he can actually dethrone Elway of that number 7.
He never will, because people will never let go of the fact of some of his
off the field. Yeah, I was about to say.
We'll just say it that way.
Which is ironic because the other great quarterback that wore number 7, Michael Vick, also had those off-field charges.
What other great quarterbacks? Joe Theismann broke his leg. He'll always be known for that break. I can see it still, the bone popping out.
That's nasty.
Oh!
That's just
Kenny O'Brien.
Yeah.
I love that you didn't even name your own quarterback.
Well, Kaepernick is brand new.
Terrible.
You know what I mean? But in 10 years, Kaepernick possibly could.
Way.
Okay, maybe. That's
maybe not. Let's just leave it there.
So anyways, I thought it was funny when they finally, his agent, I forgot his name. Oh yeah, Marvin. When his agent finally gets to have this agreement with the Broncos and then willing to trade up for him, I find it hilarious that the news breaks during a playoff basketball game. The Denver Nuggets.
Yeah. Their jerseys were so awesome during that time frame.
They were like rainbow or something like that.
Yeah, they were like it almost looked like the Astros, but like with more bars and like a cityscape. It was really cool.
It was hilarious. It was like the Skittles thing. But the news actually breaks during that the Denver Broncos were able to, which is funny because then at this point you kind of feel bad for the Yankees. Because here the Yankees are thinking they got him and they're good to go. And
which again, he's toying with, I don't know, man. I don't like it.
You know what it is? It kind of just reminds you, and this is probably a bad comparison, but kind of a guy that has like multiple women to choose from. So he's like, well, I know she loves me. I'll hang out here. Oh, but if she comes available, oh yeah, I'll go there. And then, just kind of going, and you're just playing with everyone's emotions, essentially.
Right. And those people's money. And
you're
fans.
Right. You're right. Because the Yankees gave him, I think, $175,000 bonus, and they invested in him and everything, and then he just peaced out.
Oh my God. I wonder if they exist. Elway Yankees jerseys.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I think it was like number 62 or something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm sure they do exist. Yeah, they have to.
They do. Well, but they don't put the names on the back of the Yankee jerseys, so I guess it does.
Which I like.
I like that too, because if you're a Yankee, people will know your name. Just saying.
That is true. Even though there's really nobody on their team now that's other than Rodriguez.
I was going to say A-Rod's like breaking records left and right, but anyway. Yes.
25th Grand Slam last night. All right. So anyways. Moving on. So yeah, they break the news. He ends up going to Denver.
Right.
And it seems like a good fit. His father approves. He approves. And, which I thought was kind of ironic because he does face, I think a few years later, he does face, Ken O'Brien or the Colts?
Right.
Yeah. And they end up, he ends up coming back in I think the second half and throwing like 3 touchdowns.
It was in the fourth quarter or something like that. Yeah. Or either the third or the fourth quarter, but they were losing, I think, like 21-0.
Yeah.
And he came back and won, which is a little bit of which is fine. I'll give it to him. He got a little bit of a screw you back to the Colts. But I don't know. I just feel like it's so wishy-washy how it all went down and what the...
It was a mess.
It was a mess. Yeah, it was a mess. There was no rhyme or reason for anything. There was no okay, if you... I just wanted to see if you pull out of the draft... certain year, you can't go play for another team. Like if you decide you're not playing football and you're gonna go play baseball, then you can't just be then traded to, you know what I mean? Like I feel there's got to be some sort of regulation or rule.
You've seen it before. I mean, there have been other players that have been drafted that went to go play base. Like for example, Russell Wilson. He played baseball professionally last year for the Rangers, and several years before that, Drew Hinton, who got drafted by the Cowboys, went and played baseball. So I think there should be.
And that's fine, but you can't say my whole thing is you can't sign up or enlist in the draft.
Commit to a team. Yeah.
Let a team pick you. Say you're going to say, you know what, I decided I'm going to pursue this different career instead, all in the same year, and then be like, well, if you guys trade for me, okay, I'll come back here. It's a pick one. The grass is always green on the other side, man. It's not fair.
I agree. I totally agree with that. So I guess, with that being said, obviously Marino with the Dolphins, Elway with the Broncos. We know what their history is. They both went on to have extremely successful careers. What was that?
They both had orange in their uniform.
They did both have orange in their uniform.
Just bringing it all together for you.
Wow, that was a good, and they both ended up meeting in Canton, Ohio for the Hall of Fame. But how would you sum this up? What are your reactions or final reactions to this whole?
Again, I really love these types of 30 for 30s that show us the business of the sport.
Yeah.
You know, because we watch the sport all the time, and not that we're experts, you know, but we know a lot about sports. We like to talk about sports.
Absolutely.
But to get a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of it, you know, and to get the behind the scenes, they do such a good job in showing us that. So it was, for me, really interesting. It was a very business-like episode for me, and it's two quarterbacks where, even though I want to say there should be rules and regulations, like, it really mattered, because these two quarterbacks, like, of that time, who else is there of that time that you would put in the category with John Elway and Dan Marino?
Jim Kelly, another Hall of Famer.
Jim Kelly. I mean, besides, and in this episode.
Well.
And granted, like, I'm not saying that only the same, like, people put quarterbacks from different draft classes together all the time. But from this draft class, or from this draft year, however you want to call it, there's not many others that are on par with Elway, Marino, and Kelly. So it was very interesting to have those three stories all kind of intertwined.
And can I just say this real quick? We kind of skipped over this, but one thing that I was absolutely appalled at was that when this is why Elway was playing with the Yankees and the Colts were trying to figure out a trade for him. At one point in time, my team, the Niners, considered remotely a Montana trade.
Oh, God, how did you not even bring that up? I know.
I couldn't believe it.
We both had a heartbreaking moment in this episode. Yeah, that was crazy to me.
Exactly. That was
can't
insane.
believe that, because I'm a big Joe Montana fan. Like, I had a Joe Montana jersey growing up as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just like, what? And the fact that he was already a superstar.
He had already won a Super Bowl.
He had already won a Super Bowl. He was already a superstar. And he was like, wait a minute. Maybe we give up our superstar to get the next maybe could be superstar? Like, what if John Elway would have been like, gotten to the NFL and choked? Yeah. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm so glad. That would have been the worst decision of the entire episode if they would have gave up. It probably would have been completely different, because even that, Elway would have been playing at home, which probably would have been a different scenario for him altogether. His dad would have been at Stanford right down the road. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like him getting away probably was better for his career in a weird way.
It probably was. And then who knows, we may have never had the legend of Steve Young had, Elway ended up going there. And, just to kind of get into the business of it, the business of it was, you have to realize, in 83, that was the year that the Niners, because they had won a Super Bowl, I think it was in 82. Then 83, it was a year after the Super Bowl. They did have an off year. They went, like, I want to say 6-10 or 7-9 or something. They had an off year. And then that's the year that they were like, well, maybe Montana just won the Super Bowl and he's not going to,
He's seen his time.
Like, you see that a lot in sports. Somebody has one great year and then they just kind of fizzle the next couple of years. So I don't know, maybe that kind of played into it as well. That, like, well, maybe Montana.
But didn't he go on to win two more Super Bowls?
He went on to win two more, like, a few years after that.
Right.
85 and after they drafted Rice, he went on to win two more.
Right.
But anyways, that just really goes to show at the end, it is a business. And, the fact that a franchise quarterback you would put on the block for somebody else, just
a producing franchise quarterback.
Exactly.
Crazy.
Exactly. So that was the one thing I meant to mention that really was not only heartbreaking, but really appalling.
Right.
That
that appalled me too, because I know, and I was like, wait, what were they gonna do? What were they thinking? But
exactly. So at the end of the day, the business of sports always goes around. So overall, between Dan Marino, and John Elway, who would you say is your favorite, or is the better quarterback of the two of those?
I'm gonna have to say Marino.
Wow, with no Super Bowl appearances.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, which one do I like better, or which one is producing more results?
Right? That is true.
I mean, John Elway clearly produced more results. He's now the VIP of operations or something over at Denver. Dan Marino is still working in the industry as well. He does commentating.
NFL Network or CBS, one of them. Yeah.
So I think they're pretty much successful, but I don't know. I mean, of course, you want to pick the guy that has the Super Bowl rings, but you got to say that sometimes your career, if you look at stats and you look at your supporting cast, like, I don't know, like, you can't just say one quarterback is better or worse than another one because one has rings and one doesn't. I don't think you can. Yeah. Some people think that's how you gauge it, but I feel like there's a lot of factors in gauging it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. At the end of the day, I'd rather be Dan Marino.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked out pretty good. I mean,
Yeah.
and speaking of stats, Dan Marino actually had he had the most yards in a single season record, most passing touchdowns in a single season,
And they're both in the Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
that's like the end result. I feel like rings or not, the Hall of Fame doesn't lie. Like that.
which is ironic because three of the cornerbacks from this first round that were drafted are in the Hall of Fame, and only one out of those three actually have rings, which is Elway.
Right.
Because both Kelly and Marino. So I do agree with you that rings are not the end-all, be-all.
Right.
Because, like I said, Eli Manning has more rings than a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But I wouldn't put him above Breeze. I wouldn't put him above Peyton. I wouldn't put him above a lot of people. So
You can't put him above Brady. I wouldn't even put Eli Manning above Russell Wilson.
that's very interesting. But yeah, I mean,
Eli last year.
yeah,
Eli last year.
He's been kind of disappointing
terrible.
Yeah.
And he's, once he's negotiating his contract now to be like one of the, today it came out that he said he didn't say exactly that he needed to be the highest paid player, but still, you think he's worth the same as Aaron Rodgers?
Hell no.
Aaron Rodgers right now is the highest paid.
I wouldn't even put him above
Quarterback.
Phillip Rivers right now.
Right, he's the lowest at like 19 or something.
Yeah.
So or like what it averages out to. So yeah, I don't think that. I don't know. I feel like Eli is he doesn't. I mean, he's Giants. I love the Giants, whatever. But he just doesn't do it for me.
He doesn't do it for you.
No.
Well, at least we're glad to know that Dan Marino does do it for you.
He does.
All right. Now, if fans want to do it for you, where can they reach you at?
You guys can tweet me, Instagram me, send me pictures, whatever, at IAMSTEFZ. Come say hi.
There you go. Say hi to her. Send her a picture. She loves any kind of memes that criticize the Jets. Please
I can
send
take
them.
it.
She loves it.
I'm a proud fan.
There you go. And I'm a proud fan and can take it as well. So please send me any memes that you have to @HeyKevinJohn on Twitter and Instagram. Love reading that stuff. And, one more 30 for 30 down. We'll be back here in another 2 weeks. I don't know which 30 for 30 we're going to do. Maybe the U or one of these. We don't know. But the only sure way to find out is to make sure that you tune in 2 weeks from now to see what it is. So, I'm Kevin John. Thank you guys so much for watching. Steph, your last words.
Go Jets.
Go Jets. There you go. Can't get any better. And go football. NFL is back.
Soon.
Woo! And speaking of NFL, if you want to see more of me and Steph Z, you can catch us on Monday Night Football when it starts, I think September
14th it starts, September 14th.
September 14th. And catch also Steph Z on The League and whatever else.
The Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. There you go. Good deal, guys.
All things football.
All things football. Of course. All right. And she's all things awesomes. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will catch you guys in 2 weeks. Peace out. Go Niners.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.